Hello, welcome back. I am Statman Dave, and this is 3 talking points from Blackburn Rovers versus Manchester United in the FA Cup. The game finished 2-1 to United, with Danny Graham grabbing a surprise lead for Blackburn Rovers, then Rashford grabbing the equaliser, and of course Zlatan Ibrahimovic giving the win to Manchester United. United now face Chelsea in the FA Cup quarter-final away at Stamford Bridge. It's going to be an exciting game given that United lost 4-0 to the champions-elect at Stamford Bridge earlier on in the season. Of course, Mourinho going back to another former club. But anyway, talking points today. First up, we're going to talk about the substitution, the double substitution, should I say, of Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Paul Pogba from Jose Mourinho. That was a little bit more than just a simple player switch. Then we're going to talk about the duo, Paul Pogba and Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and what they've meant to Manchester United, both in the FA Cup, but also in the Premier League this season. And then we are going to finish off with a bit of Henrik Mkhitaryan, a tale of two halves for the Armenian international. Brilliant in the first half, rubbish in the second. But anyway, let's go. Mourinho's substitutions really changed the game against Blackburn Rovers. They were simple substitution, yes. They was bringing in 2 superstars off the bench and bringing them onto the field of play against the Championship side that is struggling this year. But tactically, it was a little bit more than that. Manchester United set up in a 4-2-3-1 against Blackburn in the FA Cup tie, with Henrik Mkhitaryan, Jess Lingard and Anthony Martial supporting Marcus Rashford. That had pace, that had a lot of counter-attacking potential. But United were quite poor in the first half and in the 20 minutes in the second half in terms of how they were using the ball. They just weren't getting it into the final third quick enough, and they weren't retaining possession deep in Blackburn's half and thus creating chances. Their big chances came on counter-attacking opportunities. Obviously the big goal that United scored in the first half on the break, a fantastic counter-attack from a Blackburn free kick. But when United had the possession, they were quite poor. For me, Owen Coyle set up his Blackburn team quite well. They played in a 4-4-2, but the 2 midfielders and the 2 forwards defended really well. In terms of the 2 midfielders, you had Charlie Magrew, ex-Celtic defender, was actually playing in midfield, and he sort of did a really good job in dealing with Henrik Mkhitaryan. He loves to drift into the inside right channel when he's playing number 10. So that was sort of his man in central midfield. Partnering was Danny Guthrie. He was dealing with Michael Carrick. And of course Marvin Emenez had a job of sort of trying to man mark or trying to stick to Ander Herrera, and it worked quite well for Blackburn Rovers. Because United were playing a 4-2-3-1, it was quite narrow, and unfortunately with Anthony Martial on one side of Mkhitaryan and then Jess Lingard on the other, it didn't quite work out. They were far too narrow. They looked a little bit like Tottenham Hotspur over the last few seasons. They play a very narrow 3 with Christian Eriksen, Dele Alli and then Son or Eric Lamela, whoever's going to fill in that other attacking role. Narrow up the pitch, but they're very good technically in short areas, close passing, and a lot of interplay off each other. But the big thing there is the width is given by their wing-backs. Kyle Walker and Danny Rose are the 2 best wing-backs in the Premier League for me. What United had, unfortunately, against Blackburn Rovers with Ashley Young on one side and Matteo Darmian on the other, was some quite poor width going forward. So what it meant for United is when they attacked, they had the 2 centre-halves, the 2 defensive midfielders, the band of 3 very narrow, and then the 2 wing-backs in acres of space, but they weren't really used, and obviously Marcus Rashford through the middle. And with Blackburn's narrow shape but also quite aggressive in certain areas, I mentioned to you before the man-to-man system, Emenez picking up Ander Herrera, Magrew dealing with Mkhitaryan, and then of course Danny Guthrie dealing with Michael Carrick. It worked quite well, and when Blackburn needed to close the space down, press, they did it very, very well, and credit to Owen Coyle and how he set it up. Going back to the initial point of the substitution, why it was so crucial, not just in bringing on your star players and it being simple, it being like this Galactico model, oh, we're going to throw some lads on, it's going to be simple as anything. United changed their system. They went from that 4-2-3-1 to a 4-3-3, with Michael Carrick holding in midfield, Paul Pogba playing left central midfield, Ander Herrera right central midfield, and then a front 3 of Henrik Mkhitaryan, Zlatan Ibrahimovic and of course Marcus Rashford on the left wing. What that meant for Blackburn is they had to change their shape up. The players that were dealing with players previously had a bit more of a problem, because United now had 3 men in midfield versus 2. And what happened there was United had a free man in central midfield when the press came from Blackburn, because Charlie Magrew was still holding, trying to protect that space from Henrik Mkhitaryan to obviously drift in from that right-hand side, and then Tomlinson came off the bench who replaced Danny Guthrie, had a lot of work to do, a lot of work to close down both Paul Pogba and Michael Carrick. Ander Herrera was still slightly getting picked up by Marvin Emnes. But what actually, if you look at the goal, you break the goal down that United scored. That was a fantastic goal. You know, Paul Pogba deep in midfield, sees his pal Zlatan running in over the top, pings him a fantastic ball from inside his own half. What a pass that was, as Zlatan on the half volley side foots it home. But if we break that move down and how the midfield looked just before the goal, it's fascinating. You have McGrew sitting very, very deep on the right-hand side, the right central midfielder for Manchester United. Herrera is getting tracked by Marvin Emnes. Brilliant job that the striker's done there, or the attacking midfielder, should we say. But the key part comes there. Michael Carrick is slightly ahead of Paul Pogba, and that's where Tomlinson doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know whether to close Michael Carrick down or shut down Paul Pogba. United have created a 2v1 deep in midfield, and it gave them that platform to play that forward pass and score that goal. Gave Paul Pogba the time. He had a lot of time on the ball there to get his head up and find the pass. But it was also quite interesting in terms of United, how they retained the ball in that shape. Go back to that three-man midfield. United held the ball a hell of a lot better. They created more chances when they moved to the 4-3-3 from the 4-2-3-1. And considering they played the first system for 62 minutes and the second system for 32 minutes, that's a big statement there. In terms of the number of passes they completed per minute in the final third, also went massively up. In the 4-2-3-1 was 2.4, so that shot up to 2.97. That might not make too much sense to you guys, but that 0.6, even though it seems like a small amount, that is pretty big. You know, United completing 141, I think it was, in the 4-2-3-1 versus 97 in the 4-3-3, and that was because they had the extra man in midfield and they could retain the possession a lot easier. And that was a great tactical change from Jose Mourinho. Of course, they grabbed the goal and then they had the extra man in midfield to retain the possession and see the game out. It was so simple but so effective. On the screen, you just see two players come on, Pogba and Zlatan. You think, oh, United are just thrown on the big dogs, that's it, game over. But it's that little tactical switch of moving from the 4-2-3-1 to the 4-3-3 that won United that game. But also, we've got to move on to obviously talk about the two guys that won the game, and that is Paul Pogba and Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Two big impacts off the bench. You know, we mentioned Paul Pogba playing a little bit deeper in midfield, but creating chances. In his first 5 minutes on the pitch, Paul Pogba created 2 chances. No player on the pitch at that time had managed more in the entire game, and he'd only played 5 minutes. Very direct, a little pass inside to Ander Herrera, and then another one later on, another chance that he created. And then the assist, obviously a wonderful pass to Zlatan, and that's what Paul Pogba has. This season, in all competitions, he's had 5 assists. Not the greatest return yet, but if we consider all the chances that Zlatan has missed, or other players have missed that Paul Pogba's created for them, it'd be a lot more. It'd be on 10, it'd be on 12. But in fact, all 5 of those assists have come for the big Swede. And that relationship, as they play a little bit more, you know, we're in February now, this is where it's going to start to absolutely explode. And of course the big Swede took his chance very well, but he also created chances in the game. The two players, Pogba and Zlatan, created 6 chances between them in the 32 minutes they were on the pitch, and that was more than the entire Blackburn team managed, no, it was the same amount, sorry, as the entire Blackburn team managed combined. Big impact from the two superstars. But in terms of ball retention, it was a lot better, I mentioned before, in central midfield, but also Zlatan, the ball was sticking to him. I thought Marcus Rashford had a good game as a number 9. He did what he does as a number 9, running in behind, took his goal very well, brilliant 1v1 finish. But it was a little bit hard. It was a harder game because he's playing against tougher, more aggressive centre-halves. So someone like Zlatan, or more of a target man, the ball's going to come to his feet, it's going to stick a bit more. And that's what Zlatan did very, very well against Blackburn towards the end of the game. But anyway, coming off the bench, the two superstars really changed it for United. So we'll move on to finally talk about Henrikh Mkhitaryan, the Armenian international, who I thought was fantastic in that first half. A really, really good display. Second half, kind of died out, fizzled out the performance. He no longer got on the ball, he wasn't taking anyone on, completed 0 dribbles in that second half, failed to create a chance, and his performance dropped. There were reports though before the game that he had in fact missed the previous game against Saint-Etienne because he had an illness, so we can't blame him too much here. But as also Mourinho probably would have, at that point, would have taken off Mkhitaryan instead of Anthony Martial, who he did bring off, because I thought Martial was starting to get into the game. Mkhitaryan had dropped out. But let's talk about that first half. First up, that counter-attacking goal that he absolutely orchestrated to perfection. That's why Henrikh Mkhitaryan is seen as one of the elite forwards in world football, because he has that composure. Receiving the ball outside his area from a goalkeeper, dribbling past one man, taking a man on with a cheeky little nutmeg, and then the ball with the outside of the boot into the space that had been actually created by Jess Lingard for Marcus Rashford to go through and side foot past the keeper. If you break the attack down, it is quite interesting that Jess Lingard takes a really key role. I thought Jess Lingard had a very poor game, was getting into the space that Mkhitaryan likes to drift in and out and wasn't interchanging positions, just narrowing narrowing the shape up for Manchester United. The band of three was coming to in. He needed to keep a little bit of width, considering Mkhitaryan was playing in that position. But in terms of what Jesse Lingard did for the goal, it was that run inside that dragged the defender or the midfielder, whoever was sitting back, because it was a Blackburn free kick. He dragged him inside, across the pitch from the right wing to sort of the left back spot, and that's why there was so much space between the player that was sort of in the left centre back position and the right centre back. The space that Marcus Rashford attacked was because of that wonderful Jesse Lingard run, and we've got to take some, got to give him some credit there. But Henrik Mkhitaryan, with the composure, with the ability, with the outside of the foot techers to find him with a wonderful pass. And that sort of summed up Mkhitaryan's first half. He was bright on the ball, was trying to take people on, was trying to slip players through. There's a few lovely passes in between the opposition's left centre-back and left-back that he found players through. One that stands out for me is one brilliant ball to Ashley Young. And I just think he's getting more and more confident in this United team. A little moment that he got criticised for was when he was in the penalty area and did too many tricks and probably should have pulled the trigger. But also in terms of work rate, again, fantastic. And that's why Jose Mourinho is going to love him, or is loving him, and will love him even more. It's just United were attacking. I think it was a United corner or a United set piece. Blackburn breaking. I think it's a 4-on-2. Henrik Mkhitaryan is the guy, the Man United player, busting a gut, sprinting, wins the ball back, gets United on the attack. And that from your attacking midfielder is brilliant. And that's why Jose Mourinho is obviously signed him and is a big fan of the Armenian international. But anyway, guys, that has been that for today. A lot of tactics, a little bit of player stuff, and that's about it. United through to the quarter-finals of the FA Cup to face Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. A massive game. I want to see United defending in a 4-4-1-1 with Mkhitaryan off Zlatan. I want to see how that works against Chelsea, how they can break on that back three. It's going to be a fantastic tactical battle. But anyway, we'll probably have more of that on the Statman Dave Football Podcast just before the game. If you haven't checked it out, the Statman Dave Football Podcast, a brand new podcast daily, is on YouTube, Acast, and hopefully will be on iTunes soon, very, very soon. So make sure you check that out, because that's going to be going on next week. Anyway, if you've liked the video, please bash that like button. It means the world to all the fans, to me, to everyone, to Jose Mourinho and everyone else. But anyway, see you later, guys. If you're not subscribed to Statman Dave, click that button. Over and out.